Hot mic, ready to go. Jim Scarcelli, Dennis Fithian. Wednesday, and as always, we're here to talk about the latest to Michigan football and Michigan sports. Scar, good to see you. What's up?
Man, we're just we're fired up. We won this championship, and it's crazy that we got drama, and we're going to get into it, and it's disappointing.
Drama? Well, I think you're talking about what we're going to lead off with. We will get to what the rivals in the Big Ten are thinking about with the Bees and Blue. We will speculate, have Scar speculate on what Michigan staff could look like right now, what it could look like next year. But we start with none other than the man at the top, and that is Jim Harbaugh. And the latest today, just looking there, yesterday, if you're watching every second of this, you probably were on pins and needles. It had a feel like, you had a morning report that the Chargers and Harbaugh were within striking distance, and then they were just hammering out some of the staff details, and that sure sounded like, well, they even said like they're close to the finish line. I'm paraphrasing some of those NFL insiders and what they had to say. About an hour ago, there was a story from The Athletic. A reporter said that Harbaugh was going to meet with the Falcons today for a second interview, but that reporter said that second interview with the Falcons will not happen today. So I don't know if what do you want to read into any of that?
I mean, it could mean that the Charger deal, and Jim said, you know what, let's just do that. It could mean that Jim and Michigan, maybe they redid some language in there, and the lawyers said, we can maybe work this thing out. So Scar's going on record saying this. I don't believe that Jim Harbaugh pounded the table wanting to be a pro football coach. Okay, because I think it would, if that's what he wanted to do, it would have been done 2-3 days after the championship game. I mean, you win 3 Big Ten championships in a row. You win a national championship. He's a marketable guy. Everybody would want that guy. Somebody would have offered him a job if that's what he really wanted to do. So my thing is, everybody's talking about who the next coach is, but Ward, Ono, get Jim taken care of. I think it would have been done and over if that was Jim's sole objective. I know a lot of people in former players and media are saying, they're tired of him wanting to go look at pro jobs. I think that's all a product of the Jim Ward relationship, Chris Partridge, all of that. And but Denny, I think there's something I think there's 17 Big Ten football teams that if Jim Harbaugh leaves, they're going to be having a celebration, because the best coach, you could make the argument he's the best coach in the country. If he leaves Ann Arbor, there are going to be a lot of people having some cakes and raising a glass that they don't have to face that guy anymore. And no one bigger than down in East Lansing or in Columbus. Okay. And they're going to be happy. Ryan Day, and I'm going to take it to the grave until I hear otherwise, that Ohio State was the people that investigated and initiated and brought all this mud out there. So they can thank themselves. I think others can thank Ohio State for that. And I think the guy at Michigan State now, if Jim leaves, couldn't have ran into a better timing situation to not have to deal with Jim Harbaugh. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But there's that. That's what's going on. There's going to be a lot of people happy if Jim is not around. So
some of that makes sense, and some of it doesn't when it comes down, listening to, Harbaugh's network, and that's, his friends, associates, and a lot of them have that same narrative that you have, that, boy, you're just not getting in line and getting behind the coach and fighting for him tooth and nail if he's going to sign this thing and keep this going in Ann Arbor. So that's why he has to go out and leverage him by going through this dance with the NFL. The only problem with that is that if that is really true, that he has had to light a fire under everybody after everything that they went through this year and then got to the finish line, if they weren't ready to at the parade to get behind him, to have this and say, look, yeah, we'll guarantee the contract. If the NCAA comes after it, sure, you're worth that. Even if they put some show clause that you are, suspended and Michigan has to eat it, he's worth it. If I'm really thinking that they were like, no, we're going to have to protect ourselves and we're not like, and people are like, well, that's a smart move. That's not a smart move to be dicking around your coach if, you're if there's a chance that he'll jump to the NFL. So none of that part. Like, is Michigan that bad? Like some people say, yeah, I guess they're that bad in the administration. I don't think they're going to be that bad. And the other part, when he's going to the NFL is like, he's done it before. Is he always doing it like that? Is that what went on in Minnesota? He sat down and he turned up his nose like, no, I was just trying to get a little extra here. I can only believe so much when it comes down to that. I'd like to believe that, actually, Scar. I'd like to believe all that. But I have a hard time. You know what would be the best move for Harbaugh? If he was up on that celebration and everything else when he was reading Shakespeare or whatever it was, and he said, I'm challenging the administration and I'm challenging the president right now. If we want to keep this thing going, get that contract done. Put the sweeteners in there. Make me the highest paid coach. Not having his buddies and his network and all this doing the bidding. That would have been the smart move.
What buddy? Hang on. What buddies in network? What are you talking about? Buddies in network?
I'm not saying because you're not actually doing that, Scar. I don't know. He's got an agent now in Yee that's going around. That's part of what they do. He does have friends that like to talk to Michigan insiders, like, John Bacon. Where does he get his information from? Probably somebody that's close to Jim Harbaugh. That's almost, I'll just say this, Scar, that is almost telling Bacon is almost like chapter and verse in what you're saying. And I know someone that almost is chapter and verse talking about, it's just Michigan. They can't get out. It's the same thing. I'm just saying, if that's his approach from day one, he should have come out and put everybody, call him out on the carpet.
Well, you think he should this way. So you think
I don't like his approach.
So you think he should shred the fact that he does not trust Ward Manuel because of the way he handled Chris. You think he should say that publicly and potentially have to work with the guy again if they get this stuff. No, see, that's not what he's doing. You want him to call out the leadership.
That's right.
Because he failed Chris Partridge and the way that was. Well, that's not what he's doing. He's not gonna.
Bad move by him. Bad move by him.
Yeah, I can understand why he's not doing it.
He's chopping out his own legs if he really wants to be at Michigan. He's coming out.
I think it's all about. I think it's about this Partridge. This Stapleton thing in the background. Where's
Call
the
him
loyalty?
out, Joe. Call Stapleton out by name. That's what he should have done.
Where's this? And he just questions how much fight, Ward, and loyalty he has in him. So and is Ono going to step up and be there for him? You got the best coach in football, and how do we screw that up, man? How do we screw this up? 3 championships in a row.
I think you have to ask yourself if you really believe all of that. So you do believe all of that.
I believe if Jim Harbaugh was firmly set that he wanted to be a pro football coach after winning 3 Big Ten championships, a national championships, that it would have been lined up, and 3 days after winning that championship, he'd have been gone. It would have been over. The fact that this thing is being hung up and dragged on is because Michigan's reluctance to give him what he thinks he needs, not financially. I know you want to keep beating up this financial thing. I don't think he's putting a gun to their head about finances either. I think it all has to do with fight, loyalty, trust, Chris Partridge, and all that other stuff. That's what in my gut I think is the biggest thing.
Well, in my gut, it could be both. And apparently Michigan wants to make him the highest paid coach in college football. And it seems like the Chargers, according to reports, are going to give him a Sean Payton type contract, which will make him the highest paid coach in the NFL. So for a guy that, well, it's not about money, it's about this or that, he's going to get them both. So I'm not, I don't want to really listen to anybody talking about it's not about money, because the money's there. So, I mean, if he was like, if he took like some gigantic discount at Michigan and then got everything, and be like, oh, well, hey, it really wasn't about the money. Or, he goes to the NFL and, he's going to go with, to make it sound ridiculous, $8 million, dollars, which is half of what those other guys. They're like, well, it really wasn't about the money. He's getting more money than anybody else. So it is part of that money. I happen to think that there's he's maniacal and it helps him. Like he's got to wake up and he's got to have a fire under himself. He doesn't like how the administration, he didn't like the president, he didn't like the AD, he didn't like the regents, he didn't like these guys pulling for him, and he wants this done. And then for the NFL, you're talking about it could have just been 3 days. I think when he gets to those NFL, I think he gets a little bit like he remembers what it was before. He wants all of the I's dotted and T's crossed in the NFL, and they have not given him that. Like the Chargers went in there and it looks like, Jim wanted his own OC. They want their offensive coordinator. That's what looks like there might be a little bit of breakdown there.
I don't know. I'm not in that interview. I don't know. Apparently you are. I'm not in the interview. I don't know what the breakdown was there.
Well, read some of the reports, Gar. That's what it is. They're not just allowing him to go ahead and have carte blanche and pick everything that he wants, get the most money in the NFL, and pick every hand-picked assistant that he wants. They want a little bit of their influence on there.
Good luck finding a coach if that's your philosophy.
They're not just handing it to him.
Yeah, good luck finding a coach if you want to tell him who to hire as an offensive coordinator. Good luck with that, because that's crazy. Especially a guy like an offensive guy like Jim. You know what he wants to run. He's not going to listen to some other guy. But
you wouldn't think so, would you? No.
But anyway, Danny, listen, man. We go ahead. What else? What else did you have there? But we talked about being born on third base last week. I wanted to finish up with some things, Danny. Maybe we're unclear on what I think that means.
All right.
To not be born on third base means to take over a crummy program, a loser program, like Jim did at San Diego, like Jim did at Stanford, like Jim did when he was with the 49ers, like Lance Leipold did at Buffalo. Blew it up, turned it around, then he went to Kansas and won. Those are guys that I ultimately respect. Okay. I don't particularly respect a guy who takes over for someone else who built the program. Okay. That's why when they say Ryan Day was born on third base, that's what that means. You took over a program that with tradition and history and everything for you there to recruit. And then not only that, they had great players on the roster. That's born on third base. So I want to make, and then, Nick Saban was not born on third base ever. That guy built Toledo. Take a look at what that guy did. You made a comment about Saban, then at Michigan State he won too. So that's something that is big in my mind about the future of Michigan. Now listen, we got some great coaches there on staff. Go ahead.
I think there should be more than one school of thought about how to get the best coach. Now, I think ultimately I would agree with you. Have somebody that started out on the ground floor and worked his way all the way up, like Harbaugh did, like you mentioned, Schembechler did, through Miami and everything else. But, the truth is that there is more than one way. And the very best coaches in college football right now, they actually have done it the other way, where it'd be closer to, might not exactly like Ryan Day in a third base situation, but Kirby Smart. If there's a coach, certainly has more titles than Jim Harbaugh. He was a defensive coordinator. And, he didn't have any head coaching experience, and he woke up with Georgia and everything that they have. When you look at Dabo Swinney, he just was on Clemson's staff, came from Alabama because he was on third base with Nick Saban, and he just vaulted to the top. Lincoln Riley, it was kind of the same thing at Oklahoma. So very best coaches in all of college football right now, save Harbaugh, have had the other approach. So I think you can't just exclude somebody. And with Michigan, knowing what you know about the assistants and what they've been through and who they've learned under, that should give you a really good idea. Plus, it wasn't all Sharon Moore, but he actually technically, I know Harbaugh was there and with the game plan and everything else, but he was the one with the headsets. He was the one calling for Michigan to go for it on all those fourth downs against Maryland, against Penn State. He was also technically the head coach when they beat Ohio State. So, I mean, he's got some experience there.
Listen, Denny, I have a real good amount of confidence with the staff and the people we have there. Okay, but let me just say this to you. If you said, all right, Scar, you're the next head coach at Michigan, Jim's leaving. Okay, the number one guy I want to keep on that staff is Minter, the defensive coordinator. Minter is special in my eyes. He's special. Okay, I told you, there's scheme. There's guys that can scheme. There's guys that can recruit. There's guys that can coach technique. And I just think his vision, his wisdom as a defensive coordinator, you don't find it very often. It's hard to get. It's hard to get the guy when the team's coming to the line and they beat you with something you haven't seen and can make the adjustment so it doesn't happen again, or makes the adjustment instantaneously. Those are skills that you just can't, everybody doesn't have. So I would be willing to do that. I would be willing to say this to you too. If you and I were drafting coaches off of Michigan staff, like in the backyard, like a pickup basketball game, whatever, I would say to you this is how important I think Minter is. I would say to you, Denny, give me the first pick. You can take the next 4 assistant coaches. That's how much I believe in that guy. Okay, so that's the guy.
Sounds good, but I think that's a little bit simplistic in this because I believe in what you're saying about Jesse Minter. But he took over and McDonald was doing the same thing. I mean, is Minter better than McDonald? And Minter, like McDonald, he looks like he wants to be a pro coach. And if you're really looking at the profile of a college football coach, they need to be personable, they need to command a room, and they really need to be able to recruit and connect with kids. Ask any of your buddies, ask anybody that's been down the practice what they think of Minter when it comes down to commanding the room or being that recruiter. You know who every single person out there would pick, like, okay, who's dynamic, who's the recruiter, who commands the room, who's that college football coach that has that personality? Everybody would pick Sharon Moore. Now, that's not a knock on Minter's acumen as a defensive coordinator. He's great. It looks like he's more suited as a DC in the NFL. I'm not sure he has that aura to be a head coach.
Yeah, we've had some pretty good offensive coordinators. One of them won the Broyles, Josh Gaddis. He won the Broyles too. How's he doing? And we lost Matt Weiss. How's he doing? Where's he at? How'd we do without him? We've had 3 in a row, 3 championships in a row with different offensive coordinators. So I think there's a lot of guys there that are kind of replaceable in my eyes. Replaceable. So you talk about, and I understand the thing you're getting. Maybe he isn't 6'4". Maybe he isn't 220 pounds. I met Jesse Minter. I shook his hand. Okay, and I watched him coach. And I'm just saying he's the guy that, in my eyes, if we don't get him back, that's a big concern. That's the guy, because when did we start winning? Okay, we started winning when Jim got the defense right. We got rid of Don Brown. We got our defense right. And we got McDonald in there, and he had the toughest job because he had to retool it.
Yeah.
Okay, he had to blow up that other system, throw it out, and then get everybody squared away. And now Minter was actually benefiting from it because he had 2 years, in that system now, or a year already before so it was easier for him. And then listen, I would hope that if Jim does leave, that they would have a great deal of confidence in Klingsdale. And I would hope that he would be the kind of guy that could lead that thing and make those split-second decisions that you have to do as a defensive coordinator. I know he can coach. I watch him. I know he can recruit. But you just don't know, Danny. You just don't know. Why does everybody love the offensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions. Is he 6'5" and commands a room? I don't know. But he's a freaking wizard when it comes to play calling. Nobody wants to deal with him because they can't figure out what he's doing. I watch football games with the Lions with really smart guys that played and coached football, and we can't figure out what the hell he's doing. We all sit there and say, that's the greatest compliment to that guy because we have no idea what Ben Johnson's calling down in distance. Have no idea.
Good point about Ben Johnson. Real good one. Andres wants to know the Partridge thing. Partridge, when it was the Friday, so the eve of the Maryland game back in November 17th, Partridge was fired. So you wanted Michigan to not fire him on that Friday? You wanted him to resign. Tell me what Harbaugh was upset about that because what he told some people, hey, keep your mouth shut, or
we don't listen. We don't know all the details.
Right, we don't know all the details, but what's up with it?
Well, maybe he doesn't feel that the administration fought enough for the guy. That we didn't pound. We didn't stand up for him strongly enough. Danny, getting back to the head coach, I played for a little 5'7" guy, Schembechler. He wasn't the biggest strappingest dude, and he could command a room. And, a guy, you can learn how to do some of that stuff. Being a head coach is about hiring great assistants, having a vision, having a philosophy, discipline, unifying, developing that culture. Those are things that I don't give a damn how big somebody is, and some of that stuff. That's overrated, man.
All right. I want to make an announcement here for those of you. A couple more minutes here on this feed. Now, if you're watching this after the fact, this doesn't apply to you, but if you're watching this live, coming up at 2:35, we're going to go into the film room on this very feed, but you have to just jump over and click on the 2:35. You'll see Scar's face on the thumbnail because we are going to go over the film of the second half of the national championship game, which we're excited to do. But we still do have a minute or two or three left here. Scar, so we've talked about Harbaugh, Ohio State and Michigan State. Meanwhile, Ohio State is going nuts, being able to bring players in left and right. Obviously, they have not enjoyed the last 3 years, and Michigan State has their new head coach, and they're trying to see if they can make some headway while Michigan is in, I don't know, you call it limbo?
Yeah, Denny, when I look at that, I look at what Ohio State's doing. They got all these quarterbacks, all this stuff. I could care less if Harbaugh's back. I used to sit there with my coaches, in our staff room after the season, and, we lost this guy, we lost that guy. And I'd look at my coaches, and my coach Ward, I said, we got Ward back. And we got Shield back. I got all my coaches back. If we got Harbaugh back, I don't give a darn what they're doing in Columbus. We're going to beat them again, okay? Because our defense is going to be every bit as good, period. I'll tell you that right now. I ain't in any way worried about that. But I'm not so caught up on what they're doing there. They'll find a way to screw it up. Ryan Day will find a way to screw it up. They've had players for 20 years. They've had players for the last 3-4 years. We've been down there beating them. Okay, they've had the number one recruiting class. I don't care. We got to out-coach them. We're going to out-scheme them. We're going to outdo those things, man.
This is a good bit of feedback. Steve notices that you do have the valiant background. And if you do just sit there, it does look like you're wearing a crown. I didn't know what he was talking about, but then you kind of look, and it almost looks like Biggie Smalls because the crown is a little bit tilted, actually, Scar.
I'm just getting fired up, man. Don't forget our buddy John Wangler with Valiant. Okay, so that's that. Okay, Scar, what do you think of Elston and Klink moving to DCs? They're both stud coaches. They've been understudies, counterparts. They've been in football a long time. Do you think they can implement? Of course they can. That's why Michigan was so good for 20 years under Schembechler, and then Moeller, and then Carr. We had the same dang system for 40 years. It was easy for players. They weren't blowing something up year to year. So those two guys are great coaches. Okay. And I've been a defensive coordinator. Okay. You have your guy, you have your two top, he has his guys that you're gonna get your game plan, but when the game's going on, the buck has to stop somewhere. Okay, you can't consult when a split-second decision has to be made. So I would sign on for either one of them. I would, where they've been and where they've coached, I would hope that one of them has the ability to just, make those split-second decisions and get us in the right adjustment, because Minter and McDonald did a great job with that. And yes, I am totally confident in those two, period. I would hope that, if Jim leaves, that we would fight like hell to keep Minter here.
Yeah, those reports keep saying that the Minter and Jay Harbaugh would be in tow to LA, which would hurt, obviously. Klink, he's been the co-defensive coordinator. If you believe Jim, it has been a collaboration not only during the week but on Saturdays. Didn't tell exactly how that was going out, calling the plays and everything, but you would think Klink, as close as he can, and maybe he's already had some experience in there and calling some of those plays. And people are like, well, get somebody else from the Ravens system. Klink's been here for the last 3 years. I mean, he's seen it, firsthand. So I would think that there would be nobody more prepared and ready to slide over to the A1A headset and make those calls.
Yeah, it'd be nice. And Denny, let me just say this. I've worked coached against with guys that were really, really good public speakers in front of the team, they're real great at pep talks. Okay. But they didn't scheme it up very good. Their team was poorly coached or whatever. So there's only so much so much emphasis you put on that ability to command a room. Obviously, it's nice. It's nice to be able to do that. I don't know if Bill Belichick is a great, how much charisma he has when he's speaking publicly. He's a pretty damn good coach, though. Scar calls it right down the middle. Culture will always trump a bunch of transfer portal millionaires, Eagle all day. And yeah, I'd like to think if Harbaugh's back. And Denny, listen, man, if Jim leaves and it's Sharon Moore, I'm all in. I'm Michigan. I'm fighting like hell to support him. And I will. I mean, period. And I'm always going to do that. And I just hope that he can keep some guys here and just make great decisions, man. Because so much of being a head coach is about hiring the right assistants and developing that culture, and keep Ben Herbertson is so important to the culture. You can't let him go nowhere, and I don't think he would. Pro strength coaches aren't nearly as influential as college guys.
Good point. Most of the pro guys have their own trainers. That was a feedback that Scar was reading from Josh as we were going through it. All right, Scar, we're getting ready for the film. Any other point here on Harbaugh, Ohio State?
Well, anyway, this would be, hey, if Jim leaves, this is my thing. You got Doug Mallory as an analyst. Slide him, if Minter leaves, slide him as a DB coach. Klinkstale runs the defense, doesn't have a position. You got Roy Manning available. USC let him go. You bring him in to coach the linebackers. If you lose Jay Harbaugh, you got Mike Mallory there as an analyst. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He was a special team coach with the New Orleans. He's your special team coach. We're ready to go. We don't miss a beat. If Jim leaves with those two guys, that's reported. We don't miss a beat, and we're up and running, man, and we're fired up. So,
Ryan Manning out of Saginaw, I love him. I'd hate to lose you, Scar, but you might have to think about being an analyst if some of those guys, move to on the field coaches. Scarcelli as an analyst. Why not?
Danny, I told you I thought about it. It's just they work too much, man.
Oh, that's right. They work too hard.
6 to 10, that ain't for Scar, man.
Scar, go in there and put it in your demand. Say, look,
no,
you want to go to the poker room for 4 hours every other day. Other day. What do you think they're going to be like? No, you can't go.
Nah, that ain't it. Let's go. Let's transition, Danny. I'm going to close out.
All right, we'll talk with you in just a moment over on the other feed as we will go through and we have the national championship game. I just want to remind everyone to sign up with the Maize and Blue Review today. I wouldn't say we're heated. We're just, passionate on what we're talking about here. The passion is on the Maize and Blue Review. It is on there on the Den all day, all night. Everybody, exchanging thoughts back and forth. What about this? Who about that? It's all on there. And I am told, that it's very, nice dialogue that isn't always there when you have some of the other posting boards. Now, that's just what I'm told. I don't know. Like, you can be the judge on that. But the community is like-minded and not a bunch of trolls. All right, go to the Maize and Blue Review today. Go to michigan.rivals.com. We'll see you on our other feed here in just a minute or two as we will talk, and we will go with the film review of Michigan, Washington, and the national championship game. We'll see you there in, less than 5 minutes.